Welcome to the channel Learn with Danish. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. Welcome back, guys. Today in this video we would be discussing about the second part of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. In the first part we see that the El Dorado expedition comes and boards in the station. The El Dorado expedition is headed by the manager's uncle. When the second section opens, we see Marlowe sitting on the deck in an evening, and he overhears a conversation that's going on between the manager and his uncle. And the conversation is about Kurds. Manager is absolutely frightened about the movement of Kurds in the outer stations. He sees Kurds as a very big threat because Kurds is actually doing a very good business of ivory, and he is the favorite of the European authority. So he sees that his position would be under threat to Kurds, and these concerns are actually shared with his uncle. He also brings in another threat, wanderer trader, who is also a threat for the manager. Hearing these two threats, the uncle is pretty cool, and he says that regarding the wandering trader, you can hang him because there is nobody who will question your authority over here. It indicates Europeans do things in a very diplomatic manner. And related to Kurds, uncle suggests that God will take care of him. God, in the sense the climate would take care of him and he would die of the tropical disease. Hearing these conversations, Marlowe is absolutely astonished and surprised, and he enters the room with no prior notice. Seeing Marlowe in the room, both the uncle and the manager is also stunned, and they don't acknowledge him and leave off the room. We see that Marlowe gets a steamer repaired, and he goes up the river Congo with 20 native Africans into the Kurds inner station. He is desperate to meet Kurds. And in 50 miles away from Kurds inner station, he spots a hut that is stacked with a stack of firewood. And the hut is abandoned. It is abandoned with nobody there. There is only a note that is written, and in the note we see that it is written, "Wood for you, hurry up, approach cautiously." Marlowe finds old book on seamanship also, which has certain codes written on the margins, and these codes doesn't seem intelligible to Marlowe at all. And the woods actually are kept by the Russian trader whom the manager and his uncle had conspirated upon in previously, and this wood acted as the ship's fuel. In the second day evening, steamer stops because of bad weather, and there is a fog that is preventing them to move forward. They are just halted just 8 miles from Kurds' inner station. Marlowe actually thinks of going ahead, but it is the manager who stops him from doing so. So we see that in the second day he starts off with his steamer, and after starting off with his steamer we come to know that the people in the boat, that is the pilgrims, hears African savage voice outside, and the white people that are there inside the boat are actually badly stricken and shaken, whereas Africans on the whole are in their grit. They are actually performing in a very high alert manner, and Europeans are turning out to be cannibals or uncivilized people who are badly shaken. The steamer enters a narrow channel, and it is in this narrow channel that they are attacked by bows and arrows. And when they are attacked by the bows and arrows, Marlowe's right hand, that is in the pilot box, the African helmsman, is murdered. And when he falls onto the ground, the blood of the helmsman gets into the shoes and socks, and Marlowe here actually changes his shoes and socks, and he throws the body overboard after whistling the boat. So throwing the body overboard happens later on in the novel. Basically, we see that he's cleaning his shoes and socks, and at this point there is a break in Marlowe's narration, and we see that he's interrupted by his listeners in the deck of the ship Nellie in the river Thames. So here he whistles the boat, and it is through the whistling the boat that it's a kind of defense mechanism that he provides, wherein the natives are afraid and they just go off. There is no bow and arrowing done then after the whistling is done. Marlowe expects Kurtz to be dead if this is the situation. So this is the situation that he's seeing, and he's really afraid, and he sees that Kurtz is dead. Marlowe's listeners interrupt in between. That's what I said earlier, and it is from here he talks about the bourgeois community of the listeners as such. So this is the picture of the African people who is running off, and he's thinking about Kurtz, that is, he would be dead or not. That is, he's actually disappointed because the only intention behind his journey is to meet Kurtz, and ultimately he seeing the circumstances around here, he thinks that his life is that is Kurtz's life is also in danger. Then we come to see that Marlowe talks about Kurtz's fiancée. His intended, that's what Kurtz says about his fiancée. He has talked about many things. Kurtz has often talked about many things. He has talked about the river, he has talked about the station, he has talked about the colonial system, he has talked about his fiancée also. And we see that her fiancé is staying in Europe, waiting for his return. Then Kurtz was actually given the duty of writing a report as per the request of the International Society for the Suppression of Savage Customs. He was meant to civilize these African people when he at first goes to Congo from Europe, and he is to write the report. And we see that at the end of that report that Marlowe comes across during his visit, he states exterminate all the broods. That's the ultimate page in that particular report. And by the time he has written this exterminate all the broods, his exposition of Kurt's method of using or assuming position of power is indicative. That is, he is assuming the power above the natives. He is actually the leader of the natives by when he writes this particular sentence in that report, exterminate all the broods. There is a slight conversion of or transition in the mind of Kurtz when he comes from Europe. He is asked to write a report on the savage customs, suppression of savage customs. Now he is into that particular system of cannibalism, and that power is playing over the native African people. Marlowe returns back to his helmsman. So after talking about his fiancés and after talking about the reports, he returns back to the story where his helmsman is lying dead, and he turns out to the story was actually interrupted by the listener on the deck of Thames. He actually returns back to the story. He says that that helmsman was actually accused by Marlowe of his actions, because if he would not have got out of the pilot box, he wouldn't have been killed. It is his mistake that he goes out of the pilot box and yells at the African people who are throwing bows and arrows at them, and it is only then that the spear gets hit on his body. So pilgrims ultimately conclude that Kurds must be dead and the inner station is completely destroyed. Ultimately, we have the destination reached by Marlowe. He approaches the inner station, and we look at the inner station is almost decayed. It's about to fall, and there is the Russian trader who's actually standing there to welcome the steamer in which Marlowe is coming. He's receiving them. He's a very built guy. The manager and the pilgrims go uphill to retrieve Kurds, so they don't mind this Russian trader, because manager as such he's not having a good kind of relationship between the Russian trader, and the Russian trader is the one who looks after Kurds' business right now. He's working with Kurds now, or under Kurds, you can say. The manager and the pilgrims go uphill to retrieve Kurds, and the Russian trader talks with Marlowe about Marlowe's means of defense, and he says that whatever you have done, he knows that they have been attacked. Russian trader knows that the steamer of Marlowe has been attacked. It's a well planned attack that's going on there. We see that the Russian trader talks with Marlowe about Marlowe's means of defense. After he comes to know that he knows that already the steamer of Marlowe has been attacked by the Afro-Africans, native Africans, through bow and arrow, and he asks Marlowe of what kind of defense that did he make in order to get rid of those native Africans, and it was Marlowe who tells him that I used the boat's whistle, and he congratulated Marlowe. He says that is a very good idea of getting rid of or scaring off these native African people. And Marlowe in turn gives him his seaman book that he gets from the hut, where he gets the wood stack. And the Russian trader was the last one to offer what Kurds is all about to Marlowe. He actually says that Kurds is an enigmatic person who actually is being listened to. Nobody talks to Kurds, but rather listens to Kurds very much, indicating how divine is he and right now. He also says that Kurds has enlarged his mind now. He has enlarged his mind in the sense he has now known what it is like to be a native African. He's not directly commenting that he is now a cannibal, but in fact he's trying to say that he has now understood how a human being should behave. There is a primitive instinct in every human being. That's what it's been said. Marlowe happens to say it before the start of the journey from the station camp, and here also we see that the Russian trader is trying to say that every prehistoric instinct is there, and that prehistoric instinct is basically the base personality of a person, and that is achieved by Kurds, according to. He never says directly what happens to Kurds right at this moment. We don't know the present situation, present condition, but all these things relate to a concept that Kurds is now a part of the African native community. With that, we come to the end of the second part of Heart of Darkness, written by Joseph Conrad. Now, in the next video, we would be concentrating on the last and final part of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Till then, it's me, Danish, signing off. Have a good day. Learn with Danish. Thank you.